What's up, traders? So we just hit new all-time highs, so I'm going to discuss where the market is moving from here, what it will need for that move to happen, and we'll discuss a few stocks that are in a great position to trade as we speak. Now, if you're new to the channel, welcome first off. My name is Rashad. I am a full-time options trader, and I bring in multiple six figures a year from the stock market, and I use the money I make from the stock market in order to pay for my entire lifestyle. Now, before we begin, please, if you could be so gracious to hit that like button. That just helps the video get pushed out to more people. And do remember that I'm not a financial advisor and this is not financial advice. All trading comes with risk. I'm just showing you how I've built wealth over time. Now, before we begin, y'all know that I have to shout out some members of the Trade to Freedom community that are absolutely killing it in the stock market and using the stock market as their personal printers. And I'm just going to shout out a few people because we have way too many people that are absolutely printing money to shout out within this video. So I'm just going to pick a select few. But right here we have Lee Joe. He said, printing money like it's the Fed. Thanks, Rashad, for navigating us through all the ups and downs. $3,300 this week selling options. And we can see he put the proof right there. $3,337 just this week. So that is amazing there. And then we have another member that said, wrapped up the month of June. For June, 0 DTE profit of $16,178. Selling options profit of $2,129, which put them at a total of $18,307 for the month of June. And they said, hoping for $20,000 next month. Thank you, Rashad. And then they posted their year-to-date profits just on our 0 DTE strategy. So our 0 DTE is day trading, and we have trading strategies all the way from 0 DTE for our day traders, all the way up to monthly income strategies for our people who are more busy. And they clearly do a little combination of both, but it sounds like they focus more on our 0 DTE game plan. And they brought in almost $31,000 for the year on just the 0 DTE. So congrats to them. And then Cody down here said, congratulations, very nice. We still have one more trading day in June, so you could still hit that 20K. And that is correct. Monday is actually the last day of June. So, making $1,700 for the day is very possible. So you could absolutely hit that 20K mark. Shout out to you. And then after scrolling down even more, Cody said 0 DTE, $800 today. And Cody pretty much makes 800 or more pretty much every single day. He's pretty consistent. He's been in the program for quite some time, so he knows all the ins and outs. And so shout out to you, Cody, for the consistency. And I even know that he does our 0 DTE strategies within his kids' accounts. And I know that he's been making thousands of dollars in his kids' accounts. So that is absolutely amazing. And we are passing down generational wealth here. And then we have Hector here. He said, Rashad, thank you for the guidance. I wasn't able to keep my profits before joining your community. I'm an impulsive gambler and the community has definitely helped. Thank y'all. And I know that Hector actually, I believe, just joined just earlier this month. So he is printing money in the market. And so I'm happy to see that he has bought into our consistent and reliable strategy instead of trying to go for the gambles every time. I know the other YouTubers might say, hey, turn $100 into $1 million in 2 months. Yeah, that's not what we're trying to do here. We're trying to get that steady and reliable income. We're not always swinging for home runs. We want to get to first base, second, third, and then get home. All right, so shout out to Hector for making some money this month. Then we have Dave here, says 16 trades this month so far, $2,034 in FU money. Selling weekly puts on Wednesday, closed to let expire that Friday, TQQQ, SPXL, and some of what Rashad recommends. Made $1,565 in May, a buck less than $3,600 in less than 2 months. Thanks, Rashad. So shout out to Dave for printing these dollars, and he is doing amazing. And now I want to show you guys Frankie. So Frankie actually sent me a private message within the community and just wanted to update me on how he's been doing. And he was just so thankful for our strategies. And he was just telling me how much of a blessing that this program has been to his life. And because he's been making so much money, he said that he didn't feel comfortable posting it for everybody to see because it felt like bragging to him. And I just kind of responded and said, I don't view this as bragging. I view this as inspiration because people need to see what is possible within our community. Because it's one thing for me to post my gains, but it's another thing when you see somebody who you're sitting next to and you're learning next to just completely change their life in a positive way. And so I'll read his message here. He says, hey guys, I haven't posted any results lately, but I want to show you what is possible using Rashad's and other strategies. Please don't take this as bragging. I just want you to know that this program can change your family's destiny. Keep in mind that I do have a decade plus of technical analysis and charting and trading experience, but this is achievable starting with zero experience if you follow what he teaches. One other thing to note is I did start with $100,000 on April 11th of 2025. I made a lot of mistakes and lost as much as $3,000 to $7,000 per day in April. I do take calculated risk and normally sell the short strikes around 0.05 delta. As you can see below, it is going very well. Rashad did encourage me to share this, and I'm doing so only to motivate you to never give up. All right, so I'm just going to go ahead and click on this picture because he tracks how much he makes every day, week, and month. And he provided a picture here. So let's go ahead and click on that. And look at what he's doing, guys. Since he started, he was making about $1,000 per day in April, about $863 per day in May. And he's been making over $2,000 per day in June. And looking at the monthly amounts, he went from $22,000 to $19,000 to this month having made $41,000. And I mean, what can I say? I mean, the numbers kind of speak for themselves. He's been in our program for less than 3 months. All right, less than 3 months, and he is absolutely killing it. Now, will these be the results for everybody? Of course not. But I'm glad he provided this message so that people will know what is actually possible when we follow our formula. All right, so he's probably on pace to do a little over $300,000 for the year. But again, he started in April. So I know next year he's going to be doing somewhere between $500K to $1 million. And I can't wait to see when that happens because I literally started this YouTube channel to begin with because I have a goal to create 100 millionaires before the day I die. And so that is my goal, but it's one thing to create a millionaire. It's another thing when somebody is generating $1 million per year from our strategies. All right. Not just their net worth is $1 million. They're creating $1 million in the stock market per year. So that will be awesome to see when that happens. I know that it is just a matter of time. It's not a question of if, it's more a question of when. So that'll be pretty dope to see. But Frankie, thank you for sharing that. And if you guys do know anybody who would like to join the community, the link is in the description below. You'll not only get to see my trades when I enter them, but you'll get my full options framework via the Trade to Freedom course. You'll get full access to ask me questions at any given time. And lastly, you'll be within a community of other traders who all have the exact same goal as you. So if you do know anybody who's interested, the link is below in the description, but let's get down to business. All right, first and foremost, we just hit a new all-time high for the S&P 500. And yes, it has been a wild ride over the last 6 months. And I believe that we are in position to enjoy further highs throughout the rest of the year. And my prediction for the S&P 500 by the end of the year is $660 for the SPY. All right, and here's the reason for that. Our companies are doing amazingly well. Our companies are growing their net income, they're growing their cash flow at extreme rates. And really, this was occurring at the beginning of the year as well. However, when the current administration introduced tariffs, it created this whole panic, and obviously we crashed, but that was all because of tariffs. It was not because our companies were doing any less better than they were prior. It's just that the tariff situation was unknown. But now that it seems like we do have a slight idea of what tariffs could look like and that they're not as extreme as what we assumed prior, the market has rebounded quite quickly and we are now at all-time highs again. Now, like I said, my prediction for the end of the year price is $660 for the SPY. And there are two main things other than companies continuing to grow that I think will absolutely make that happen. And here's the first thing. The first thing is we need a lack of bad surprises. As I said before, we sold off because of tariff announcements that were much worse than what was expected. Well, as long as we don't have those type of surprises from the current administration, that puts us in a good position. In my personal opinion, and please don't take this as a political statement because it's absolutely not, but I believe that the current administration believes that they are the reason that the stock market is doing so well currently. And I believe that the current administration loves to be praised and they hate ridicule. Because during the months of March and April, they received a lot more ridicule because the stock market was crashing. And one thing you can't do is play with people's money. And so now that he's reversed his stance on tariffs and the stock market has gone back up, I personally don't foresee anything in the near-term future that he would do that would cause the stock market to go into a panic. All right, so just yesterday, they announced that the US and China have come to an agreement on tariffs and that there will be much more announcements by the end of Labor Day. Okay, so that is another sign we are going in the right direction. Now, something else that came out just yesterday is Trump says he is terminating trade talks with Canada. Now, whether that happens or not, I don't know. I believe it's more so a negotiating tactic that he's using because Canada is putting some type of digital product tax on us, and I think he wants to get rid of that. So I think he's going to use ending trade talks with Canada as a tool to make them remove that digital tax, but we will see how that goes. But that is the first thing that needs to happen for us to get to those points that I talked about. Now let's talk about the second one. The second thing that needs to happen is we need for the Fed to cut interest rates. And right here, looking at the CME Fed Watch tool, we can see that there's about an 18% chance that they cut rates at the July meeting. However, if we take a look at the September meeting, we can see that there is a 74% chance that they cut rates at that meeting. And I believe that currently the market is pricing in 2 interest rate cuts for the end of the year. And I believe that once Jerome Powell says we are good to go with starting our interest rate cutting process, that'll be great news for the market. Now, if he somehow says, hey, in the July meeting that he's going to go ahead and start, because we do see there is about an 18% chance, so it's more likely to not happen. However, if he does surprise people and say that we are going to go ahead and do it because the data says that it is okay to do so, well, then there's a chance that we might hit even higher than 6,600 by the end of the year. But now that we have all that information, let's take a look at some potential trades for next week's trading week. First off, let's start with the fan favorite SoFi. Now, we in the community have been making a ton of money off of SoFi. Like, it's not even funny the amount of money that we've made off of this stock over the last few months. And please do check out the video that I posted just earlier this week that discussed 2 of the best stocks to trade in order to print money, even for small accounts, because SoFi was one of them, and I went much more in depth about the company. However, if I were to place a trade on it today, looking at the charts, there is a ton of support between the $13 and $14 level. All right, we see the 200-day moving average, which is this blue line, is at 1306. Then the 50-day moving average is at 1362. And then if we could see here, it created a little form of support right here at the $14 mark. Okay, we could see it traded around that range. It went up, it came down, hit $14, and has bounced up ever since. Now looking here, what I think it also did right here with these candles right here is it may have created another level of support right at the $15 mark. We can see on this red day, $15 and bounced up a little bit. And then on the next day, it went down as low as $14.64. However, it came back up and closed at $15.36. So I believe I would be safe selling puts anywhere around the $15 mark currently. And so let's head to Thinkorswim and look at some potential trades. And here we are at the options chain. And if I were to place a trade today, I would probably come down to this date that is about 34 days out from now. And I do see, looking over here, that the implied volatility for that date is much higher than all the rest of the dates. So I'm assuming that they have earnings at some point during that week. And because of that, the premiums will be much higher than they will on any of these other weeks up here. But if we do believe that the stock will stay above $15 and we do not mind owning the shares of the stock, let's go ahead and look at that expiration date. And I would likely come somewhere over here to this $15 or $15.50 strike. And we can see that they pay amazing premiums. So for the $15 strike, you'll get anywhere between $52 to $57 per contract. And that is about a 3.5% return on your money. Or you can come down to the $15.50 strike and you'll get an even higher return on your money at well over 4%. All right, so I do like that, and I do think that SoFi will continue to grow. And we've made a ton of money off of this stock over the last few months, and we will continue to do so. But let's take a look at Palantir. So Palantir had a pretty nasty Friday. They went down 9.37%. But looking at the charts, we can see that the 50-day moving average is right at $123. So there's a good chance that it catches a bit of support right there. And Palantir is an amazing company, and people love trading the stock. And I traded it pretty heavily last year when it was between $30 and $40. However, with this stock specifically, I've taken a back seat, and this is why I haven't been trading it. It has a PE ratio of 544. And that is after it went down so much just yesterday. And here's the thing. I know a lot of people view the stock market as just like a gambling tool. However, I view it as what it actually is, which is a way to buy ownership into the companies that you actually like. And maybe because I've owned businesses, so I'm accustomed to looking at income statements, balance sheets, and cash flow statements. But neither I nor you would buy an actual company like in real life, like a laundromat, like a restaurant, like a gym, like anything, if it had a PE ratio of 544. Like, you have to understand what that means. You are paying $544 per every $1 of net income that they've made in the last year. And so for comparison's sake, that would be like you purchasing a company in your local city for $544,000, and in the last year, they've made $1,000. Like, you can't tell me that you would ever actually do that in real life. Now, Palantir lovers, I know y'all are out there and I know y'all are deep. Do not beat me up. I mean, no harm. I just want to keep it real with you. Now, does that mean you don't trade Palantir? Absolutely not. That is not what that means. However, I would like to see it get to a reasonable valuation. And for that to happen, it needs to be one of two things. One, either the price needs to come down or their earnings need to go up, which it is happening. However, the price just continues to go up with it, or a combination of both, where the stock price comes down and the earnings go up, and that will fix that valuation. And so when that occurs, I will start trading Palantir again more heavily. However, now I'm taking a back seat to it, but Palantir lovers, do not beat me up. I appreciate you and I love you. But let's move on to our next stock. Tesla, ticker symbol TSLA. Now, it has recovered quite tremendously since its lows. It got as low as about $214 on April 7th, and now it is back into the 300s. And I've always loved trading Tesla stock. And several years ago, Tesla was actually the only stock I traded. I didn't trade any other stock other than Tesla. And while I look back at that in hindsight and go, yeah, that was pretty stupid, but I made a ton of money doing it. But me as a wiser trader now, I would never put all my eggs in one basket like I was doing at that time, but I made good money off of it. And so I always have an appreciation for Tesla stock. However, looking at the chart today, we can see it's actually trading right along some very good levels of support. All right, we have the 200-day moving average at $312. We have the 50-day moving average at $311. And then the bottom of the Bollinger Band is at $306. And so it would take quite a bit of selling pressure to get it under that $300 level. Now, of course, with Elon, you never know. He could put out a tweet that makes everybody mad and it sells off. But Tesla did just recently launch a robo-taxi, and I know that that has been priced into the stock for several years. And so now we're at a point where we're at a waiting game, just waiting to see actual data about how the robo-taxi will impact Tesla's company moving forward. And if it does turn out to be a success, then we could see a ton of upside moving in the near future. However, Tesla took quite some time to come out with the robo-taxi, and they have allowed what is now my favorite stock when it comes to investing to be the leader in that field. And that stock is none other than Google, ticker symbol GOOGL. Now, why do I love Google stock so much? Well, because they're one, an amazing company, and two, their stock price hasn't gone way up like most other stocks have over the last several months. And so I believe that the stock is very, very undervalued. And in fact, Google, as of 2024, was the most profitable company in the world. Google was the only company that had over $100 billion in net income in 2024. All right, so it wasn't Apple, it wasn't Microsoft, it wasn't Nvidia, it was Google. And what's crazy is part of the reason why Google stock has not gone up as much as other stocks is because people believe that AI is going to kill Google's business. And to me, that's hilarious. Because if we look back at ChatGPT launched in the end of 2022. And here we are in 2025 now. And just last year, Google was the most profitable company in the entire world. So whose business is it killing? Because it's not Google's. And this reminds me a lot of back in 2022 when Meta stock was selling off because people thought that TikTok was going to take all of Facebook's business. And so the stock price just kept going down and it kept going down and down. However, I kept listening to their earnings call and reviewing their financial statements, and every single quarter they made more and more and more money. However, the news just kept saying that Facebook's business is getting destroyed by TikTok. And here's the thing with that. You have to realize that sentiment will always follow the stock price and it will never be the other way around. All right, and what does that mean? That means if a stock price is going down, then the news coverage of that stock will be nothing but negative. However, on the reverse side, if a stock price is going up, then usually the news coverage of that stock will be nothing but positive. And so sentiment just follows the stock price instead of how it should be with the stock price following the sentiment. But when you're able to find that imbalance is where you can really outdo most other traders and investors. So looking at Google's stock price, we can see it's currently $178 and it had a pretty good day on Friday, up 2.88%. And within the trader freedom community, we actually just closed out on some profitable trades on Google and we opened up some new ones, but I am a buyer of Google anywhere at $170 or less. So we currently are selling puts at $170 or less, and we are receiving some amazing profits for doing so. And if we take a look at Thinkorswim, what I would probably do is come over to the options chain. If I were to place a trade today, then maybe I come out to this 34-day out expiration date, and I would select that, and I would likely come over here and sell puts at either the 170 or the $165 strike. And we can see that the 170 strike will pay anywhere between $375 to $405 per contract. And the reason I would be fine with being so aggressive with the strike price is because I really want to purchase the shares. All right, so remember, when we're selling puts, we're agreeing to buy shares of a company, typically at a cheaper price. If we're doing so, we get paid. And if the stock price drops to, in this case, 170, then I would be forced to buy at least 100 shares of the company per contract. However, with any situation, I still keep the premium that I received for opening up that trade. Now, this trade specifically would probably be for people with a higher account size, because since we are doing the $170 strike, that would be $17,000 that you would need to purchase of Google if the stock price were to drop below that strike price. All right, so if you don't have an account that could handle that, then you would probably want to either select a more conservative strike, or you could just turn it into a credit spread, which would lower the buying power that would be needed in order to place that trade. So that is how I would treat Google as of right now, and that is how we are treating Google within the Trader Freedom community. And then if we go back for Tesla stock, I would probably be doing put credit spreads on Tesla at anywhere under $300. And then if we go back to Palantir, well, on this one, like I said, I'm just going to wait for the valuation to come down quite a bit. However, if you are making money off of trading Palantir, then I absolutely love that for you. And then like we said, for SoFi, I am selling puts around the $15 mark if I were to trade it today. But I'm looking forward to see how this week turns out for us. And I do believe that the market has much upside for the rest of the 2025 year. And like I said, if you do know anybody who would like to join the Trader Freedom community, tell them about it. The link is below in the description. But in the comments, go ahead and let me know any trades that you are looking at currently. Make sure you like this video and subscribe to the channel. And I will see you guys on the next one. Peace!